Hi and welcome back to LDF-Designs. I'm doing something a little different in this video today. We're going to talk a little bit about what Encaustic does to the different kinds of paper. So I chose several papers from my stash. I have some mulberry paper, some fibrous mulberry paper. I ripped some pages out of an old book. This is just some brown packing paper, and I just want to show you and make you aware, if you're not already, that the Encaustic will do different things to different kinds of papers. So you want to keep that in mind as you're making your creations and have that work in your advantage. I also pulled out a little bit of cheesecloth. I like to use that to create shapes on my pieces, but I don't really do a whole lot with it in this video because it kind of stuck to my silicone pad there. So in this part here, I'm just going to go ahead and apply a little bit of Encaustic to 1/2 of each of these samples, and then I'll go back and fuse each one and show you how it changes the color. I didn't warm my papers up before I was applying the Encaustic, so it was wanting to stick to the brush a lot and didn't go on very smoothly. So I've mentioned in previous videos, but if you haven't caught it or heard me say it, it always is a good thing to try to warm your surface before you apply your Encaustic. It'll just help it go on much more smoothly. So this is the cheesecloth here. Again, I like to put some Encaustic on that and create different shapes. I just wanted to show it to you, but in the end it kind of stuck, and when I was pulling it off it ripped up, so I don't do a lot with it. One of the things that you'll notice with this brown paper is that it really creates a much darker tone than the original paper, the original dry paper. I'm going to show you here in just a moment. I have the same paper that I added a little bit of black ink and tar to, and then I dipped that in the Encaustic, and you can kind of see the color you get. So it is a great color to work with, but it will come out much darker than maybe what it started. So just make sure that you keep that in mind and plan accordingly if you want to use that style of paper. This is just a partial page out of an old Bible that I ripped out, and one of the things I'm going to try to show you, although I'm not sure how well it shows up on the video, is when you have words on two sides of a thin paper like this, when you put the Encaustic on, the words from the back side will bleed through to the front side. Now this isn't anything that normally bothers me, but you again want to keep that in mind as you're putting Encaustic and using that in your mixed media. It will pull, you know, the paper kind of becomes a little bit more transparent, and you will see the markings and writing that's on both sides of the paper showing through. This is the same style of paper, if you will, just a different book, and it was a more aged book, so the paper had become a little bit more brown and weathered looking. So again, it did make the paper darker, but not quite as dark as that first brown wrapping paper, and the words are seeping through on this one as well. Now this next paper is probably one of my favorite papers. It is a fibrous mulberry paper. I did get that off of Amazon, and it just becomes completely see-through when you put the Encaustic on it. So I use it in a variety of ways. Because it becomes so transparent, I went ahead and lifted up this red spoon to show you how well you can see through it. It's kind of cool because the fibers don't show through. So at that point I decided maybe I should show you the other ones so you can see how transparent they become as well. Each one obviously is just slightly different, and whatever papers you choose to use may be even different from these. So it's never a bad idea to just rip off a small piece and use it as an example, see what kind of transparencies that you get with it. Also keep in mind, if you are putting any kind of watercolor on these paints or ink marks, any type of marks or ink or color whatsoever, this can also alter that color slightly as well. So this is where my cheesecloth really got stuck, and as I was trying to heat it up and pull it off of there, it ripped all up into pieces. So I kind of just set that aside. Maybe we'll look at that on a different day. And then finally, I did go ahead and pull a piece of that white transparent fibrous mulberry paper. I have used some watercolor and inks on this paper. So in this point here, it's completely dry. It does have a little bit of transparency with it, but I'm going to go ahead and I tried to just fuse some of the extra encaustic that was on the pad up onto it, but eventually I'll just put a little bit on here. In this case, because I used watercolors, it didn't change the color drastically. It does make it a little bit darker. And almost all encaustic, even when you're purchasing clear, does have a little bit of a yellow hue to it. So you want to keep that in mind as well. And as you can see, you can still see through this pretty easily, and the colors also darkened up slightly. So those are the different papers that I wanted to show you today. Feel free to tag me as you use papers in your encaustic work. I'd love to see what you're doing out there. And thank you for watching.